Hello, members of the CGA. This is Dina Harrell, Director of Advanced Academics. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time to speak with you today from Houston about our presentations that we are doing around the district about the need for change in our education system. In Coppell, the possibilities truly are limitless, but we are working within an education system that was designed over 100 years ago for a very different purpose. Learners enter a grade level currently, and they all receive basically the same thing as far as the system is concerned. It was never designed to help children learn at high levels, and with so much being written about the future of education, we believe that it's time for change, and that the new education system will be very different from the one in the present. The moral and professional imperative for change is strong. The questions we are asking ourselves are, how will we personalize learning if we stick with a system that tests students en masse at the same age and at the same time? How can we best create genuine lifelong learners with the skills and competencies to respond flexibly and cooperatively to the phenomenal changes that face us in the future? Coppell ISD is reaching out to the community. I am reaching out to you. The curriculum department, along with an outside consultant, has designed a series of opportunities to solicit your voice in developing goals to address questions such as these. We are starting by sharing with you a few points about how education looks today in Coppell. I encourage you to attend the IDEA Summit on January 15th and 16th for an opportunity to give your input to our educational process. I'll give you more information about that at the end of the presentation. Information about the IDEA Summit, a survey will be provided online for more information. And after the data from the IDEA Summit and survey are disaggregated, a committee called Pinnacle 2020 will set goals and a timeline for future work for Coppell Independent School District. Please refer to the Coppell website for times and locations of future meetings. We're also going to open a section with a tab on the website with information about what we've been reading about, the things that have prompted this urgency to make change in our system. At this time, I would ask you to go into your email and click on the link that I've provided, which is the voice of the learners. We very often make big decisions without talking to them, but in this particular case, we ask them, what do you feel like is important for your education for the future? And it was very enlightening and telling about what they had to say. So if you will exit this particular video and go into the link that I've provided in the email and watch what the learners have to say, and then come back to me. Let's talk about that. If you haven't clicked on the link to the video, please do so. I apologize that this particular format of presentation doesn't allow me to embed that video in it, but please go in and watch the video of what our learners have to say. It's pretty insightful and really is a charge to action for us. Well, I don't know about you, but I did not have the same thoughts and feelings while I was in school about my learning. I was compliant. I did what my educators asked me to do, but I don't believe I had the same level of ownership by any stretch of the imagination as the young people that you just saw have in their own learning, and the desire to be part of the process, to take ownership and to ask questions of those that should be facilitating learning for me. I am always blown away when I watch what they have to say and feel this incredible sense of urgency to get to work. We know more now about how people learn and what types of opportunities to provide them in order to maximize their potential than we ever have. Brain research tells us an awful lot about the importance of change of state, novelty, keeping learners engaged, allowing them voice and choice, As the learners so very aptly discuss, technology is driving the world forward, and the meaningful integration and purposeful use of that is incredibly important in all of our classrooms. From an adult point of view, thinking about how to make sure that our learners have the skill set they need to be successful in a world that is increasingly flat and small, and yet competitive on levels that we have never seen before. These are the things that we are thinking about, and really leads to that question of, now what do we do? If we know all of this, now what do we do in designing our next iteration of schooling? We'll start with one of the most noticeable changes. As you walk into many classrooms in the district, the actual learning environment has changed. We are really working to attend to the need that the learners have expressed to us about the environment that they work in. First of all, we know that the learning environment must be safe physically, intellectually, emotionally. Today's learners also need to have encouraged us to create new settings for teaching and learning that foster collaboration and creativity and promote learning and a sense of well-being. If you walk into many classrooms in the district, very few of them you will see the model that most of us grew up in, where the desks were in rows. Jokingly, we kind of refer to that as the cemetery model. Instead, you'll see tables grouped together, and you'll see educators that have brought in couches and other pieces of furniture to really make the environment more comfortable. You'll see learners collaborating in a variety of different settings. The pictures on this particular slide are from one of the blended learning labs at Coppell High School, and the different environment that's been created there. You can see kind of the opportunity for learners to collaborate together on kind of a couch and some comfortable chairs, but then there are larger workstations in that picture on the right where learners can meet together, and that table actually seats 6 to 8, and they can collaborate in more of a committee kind of setting. We know that the environment that we have to create, not only the physical environment, but the virtual environment, has to be engaging. We have to design our virtual courses to allow for collaboration, interactive, and intellectually stimulating content. Learning environments that appeal to today's learners look very different, and it's a challenge and an opportunity for us to start thinking about physically, what do our schools have to look like. This is something I've been speaking to you guys about for a while, at least in terms of the gifted and talented interventions. I know it sounds very simple, but the goal of teaching is successful learning. And responsive teaching means that the educator establishes a positive relationship with each learner in order to understand the background, experiences, learning preferences, interests, culture, and other supports needed to ensure that successful learning. We no longer believe that children come to us as blank slates, and it is for us to dispense knowledge to them. Instead, we as professional educators look at the experiences the learner has already come to school with, and what does that mean for the design of learning for those specific learners. Over the last 5 years, CISD has really broadened the continuum of services for our learners, from a few pull-out services for specific students to a more inclusive yet customized continuum of services as a means of being more responsive to learner needs. So let's talk a little bit about special education. You might hear that termed as intervention services. These are programs, services for learners who have a variety of challenges, from either cognitive, physical, or emotional challenges, and what supports have been put in place to help meet those learners' needs. It can be a very self-contained, specialized situation, but in many cases, it's about educators who are specialists pushing in and supporting that learner so that they can be successful in the general education classroom. As you know, Gifted and Talented Interventions has really worked to have a model that mirrors special education in some ways, in that we are trying to utilize our GTI specialists as they push into the classrooms, help plan with classroom educators in order to ensure that differentiation is happening for our most able learners on a daily basis, because the learning has been designed to support that, as well as providing some pull-out services for learners who really do need some accommodation and modification to the general education curriculum. Response to intervention is a federal mandate, and it is an opportunity for educators, parents, and learners to gather together to look at data about learners who are not being successful in the classroom and to design interventions for those learners. Those interventions are implemented for a given period of time, usually around 6 weeks, to see whether that change in service design or programming has met that learner's needs. If it has, then that continues. If it has not, then that committee convenes again to design further intervention to meet that learner's needs. I don't know if you're aware, but the Capella Independent School District this year and for several years has had to submit waivers to the state of Texas for bilingual education courses that we should be offering, given the number of learners that we have at particular grade levels whose native language is, for example, Korean, and yet we can't find a Korean educator to help us provide that language. We have Urdu. There are several languages that we've had to file waivers for. But what we have done, since we cannot offer some of those bilingual settings simply because we don't have the educators for it, is we've broadened our supports for ESL, learners of English as a second language. All of our elementary educators are ESL certified, and we have specialists who help support those educators in their classrooms as they strive to meet the needs of their ESL learners. We also have dual immersion, which is our bilingual program for Spanish at Wilson Elementary and at Denton Creek Elementary. Both native English speakers and native Spanish speakers can participate in that program. Basically, this whole slide is about acknowledging the fact that CISD does not believe that one size fits all. We have broadened the services that we are providing in order to meet the unique needs of each of our learners. One of the things we also know is that the standards have changed. Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills are written for educators to help learners acquire the knowledge at an application or above level. So application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Embedded into the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills are processing skills, making sure that learners understand the scientific method, that learners are able to think at deep levels, to evaluate, to collaborate, and they're being assessed in a different way. When TAX came out, we thought that was a very rigorous assessment, but now that we have had the opportunity to look at STAR, we also know that the state has a similar expectation to our campuses, in that we don't want learners to just regurgitate for us, for example, the rock cycle. Instead, we want them to be able to apply what they know about the rock cycle to how changes in weather and the water cycle and how that might affect the rock cycle. Like, they've got to be able to not only regurgitate information, but they have to use that information and make an educated guess on how one thing might impact another. That's a very different skill set. It's a very deep level of thinking, and we are designing our learning around that. We also are aware that there are higher expectations for college and career readiness for our learners. We want them, no matter what path they choose after high school, to be prepared to either move into the workforce or to go to that 4-year university. We've moved away from emphasizing facts and are helping learners utilize their content in very complex ways. While we always believe that learners have to have that foundation of knowledge, they've still got to know their multiplication facts. They've still got to know about the water cycle. They've still got to have this basic understanding of the content, always. We also believe that there are future-ready skills that learners have got to have a mastery of in order to be competitive in that global economy. We believe they've got to be good communicators. They've got to be able to do that in the written form. They've got to be able to make presentations to others. We believe that they've got to be good collaborators. They've got to know how to be a leader in a group, but they've also got to know how to be a follower, how to be a group member who contributes. We've got to encourage their creativity and innovation. That's what makes America great. It's the reason that we've been a global power for so long, because we are the people who go out and invent the solution to a problem. We've got to continue to foster that instead of stamping it out of our kids as they go through the education system. We also believe in agency. That's learners really taking control and being an advocate for themselves. We believe that being fluent in the digital world is incredibly important, that learners have got to have that digital citizenship and digital literacy. They've got to know, is that a good website to use? Am I making a good choice as I'm posting X and so online? That is the importance of that skill. I can't even begin to communicate what that means. Critical thinking and problem solving. Again, that has got to be something that we foster in our learners. We don't want them to repeat the answer that they heard from us. We want them to help create those answers and to come up with divergent ways, multiple ways of solving the problem. Let me repeat again, though. We still believe they need to have the mastery of the content that is expected by the state. That's the foundation. But all of these other skills, we believe, based on our reading and the conversations that we were having with those in business and industry, are important skills to make sure that our learners really are ready for the future they create. And here's another way of saying what I just said. We've got to produce learners, not students. You should learn for your whole life. You're only a student while you're enrolled in school. Our learners have to be creators of knowledge, not just consumers of it. They need to be the people writing about, blogging about, creating videos about the things that they've learned. They need to be the ones that are synthesizing information and creating a new solution. They need to be the designers, not the replicators. And we need to produce learners who are prepared for their future, not ours. So how do we design learning to do all of those things? Strong learning design weaves together content, skills, and assessment to help learners make meaning. Lesson planning used to happen from a very teacher-centered stance, with the teacher at the center of the design. Today, we're working with our educators in their craftsmanship to design learner-centered experiences where the learner is at the heart of the design and the learning is meaningful and relevant and gives students voice. We have 2 design models for this, UBD, or Understanding by Design, and PBL. Both are posted on our website if you want to learn more about them, but essentially those learning designs charge our learners with active engagement and participation, creation of their own knowledge, and sharing of their research. Through learner-centered approach, we consider and include this mosaic. It is the craftsmanship of the educators to design learning experiences that marry content with future-ready skills to ensure learners' needs are met through relevancy and authenticity. Learners as young as kindergartners are able to express their need for choice in their learning and can identify when they are engaged and love to learn. It's very different from the way we went to school, where most of us, I think, were just the receivers of whatever our educators shared with us, and then we gave it back to them in the form of some sort of assessment. This really is about connecting learners' interests and passions, which really leads to that relevancy. how can educators capitalize on those things to get them to that content that we know that they need to know. I love J.K. Rowling, and I think this is an amazing quote. We do not need magic to transform our world. We carry all the power we need inside ourselves already. We have the power to imagine better. That's why we're coming to you as the community, is we know that together, collectively, we can work together to design the next iteration of schooling for Coppell Independent School District. The answer lies within us, not just within the curriculum department, not just within professional educators, but within the community as a whole. So we invite you to attend our idea summits. I would encourage you to please put these dates and times on your calendars so that you can have your voice be heard as Dr. Turner and an outside consultant meet with members of the community to elicit your input for what we need to be doing for the next iteration of schooling in CISD. I hope you have a lot of questions. Obviously, we have many questions. There is going to be a tab on the website that is it's starting to be populated with the things we've been reading. If you would like to go out and peruse that a bit and then offer your contributions, ask your questions, we would be thrilled to have that information as well. We know you guys are experts in what you do, and we want to have that information as we are moving forward in this endeavor. After the idea summits, there will be a survey, an opportunity for you to give input in a different form, and then a small committee will be formed, Pinnacle 2020, that will guide the action plans and decisions that are made as CISD moves towards the next part of this decade and what we're going to be doing and what we hope to accomplish for learners who are getting ready to enter kindergarten and will graduate in the class of 2027. My daughter will be one of those, so it really is an opportunity for us to collaborate and work together to build the next version of education. Thanks for your time. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me or tweet to me, but make sure you come to these idea summits. You are a really important voice in CISD. Have a great day.